Joseph Kabila's rise and fall as the President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, can be summarized as follows. Rise. Succession to presidency. Following the assassination of his father, President Laurent Desire Kabila, in 2001, Joseph Kabila assumed the presidency at the age of 29. His rise to power was primarily due to the circumstances of his father's death and his position as the heir apparent. Transition and political stability. During his early years in power, Joseph Kabila managed to stabilize the country to some extent and maintain a fragile peace. He oversaw the end of the Second Congo War, one of Africa's deadliest conflicts, and initiated a process of national reconciliation. International support. Kabila garnered support from the international community, including neighboring countries and regional organizations, as they saw him as a potential stabilizing force in the volatile region of Central Africa. Fall. Political tensions and instability. As his presidency progressed, tensions arose over Kabila's extended stay in power. His refusal to step down after his constitutionally mandated two-term limit ended in 2016 led to political protests, clashes, and a deterioration of the security situation. Human rights concerns. Kabila's government faced criticism for alleged human rights abuses, restrictions on freedom of expression and assembly, and crackdowns on political opponents and activists. The government's actions were widely condemned by international human rights organizations. Delayed elections and transition. The DRC faced a significant delay in holding presidential elections, which were initially scheduled for 2016 but were repeatedly postponed. This delay fueled further unrest and contributed to a loss of confidence in Kabila's leadership. Transition and post-Kabila era. After significant international pressure and internal negotiations, Joseph Kabila stepped down in January 2019. Felix Tshisekedi, the leader of the opposition party, assumed the presidency in what was seen as a historic transfer of power. Kabila's political influence continued after leaving office, as his coalition retained a majority in the parliament. It's important to note that the political landscape in the DRC is complex, and the factors contributing to Kabila's rise and fall are multifaceted. Rise. Transition and international support. After assuming the presidency in 2001, Kabila enjoyed support from regional and international actors who viewed him as a key figure in stabilizing the war-torn DRC. He received assistance from countries like Angola, Zimbabwe, and Uganda, which helped consolidate his position. Peace agreements. Kabila's government played a role in negotiating peace agreements, such as the Sun City Agreement in 2002 and the Goma Accords in 2008, aimed at resolving conflicts within the country. These agreements contributed to a relative period of stability and disarmament. Economic growth. Under Kabila's presidency, the DRC experienced some economic growth due to increased mining activities and investments in the natural resources sector. However, these gains were often overshadowed by allegations of corruption and mismanagement. Fall. Extended presidency. One of the main factors contributing to Kabila's fall was his refusal to step down after his constitutionally mandated two-term limit expired in 2016. This led to widespread protests and calls for democratic transition and respect for the constitution. Political repression. Kabila's government was criticized for suppressing political opposition, curbing freedom of expression, and intimidating journalists and activists. Political opponents faced harassment, arbitrary arrests, and violent crackdowns, which further eroded public trust in his leadership. Delayed elections and controversy. The postponement of presidential elections, originally scheduled for 2016, raised concerns about Kabila's intentions to cling to power. The delayed electoral process and allegations of electoral fraud fueled unrest and heightened political tensions in the country. Opposition pressure and negotiations, domestic and international pressure, along with negotiations mediated by the Catholic Church, eventually led to an agreement for Kabila to step down. This resulted in the 2018 election, in which Felix Tshisekedi emerged as the winner amidst disputed results and accusations of a power-sharing agreement between Kabila and Tshisekedi. Rise. Transition from his father, Joseph Kabila rose to power following the assassination of his father, President Laurent Désiré Kabila, in 2001. As the designated successor, he assumed the presidency at the age of 29, becoming one of the youngest heads of state in Africa. Peace process and integration. Under Kabila's leadership, efforts were made to stabilize the country and integrate various armed groups into the political framework. The integration of rebel forces into the national army and the establishment of a transitional government aimed to foster peace and unity. Infrastructure and development projects. Kabila's government embarked on infrastructure projects, including road construction, energy development, and investment in mining and natural resources. These initiatives aim to stimulate economic growth and improve living conditions in the country. Fall. Political and electoral controversies. Kabila's decision to delay the 2016 presidential elections led to widespread protests and accusations of attempts to cling to power. The delayed electoral process fueled political tensions, and there were allegations of electoral fraud and irregularities during the 2018 elections that brought Felix Tshisekedi to power. Humanitarian crises and conflict. Despite efforts towards stability, the DRC faced ongoing conflicts and humanitarian crises during Kabila's tenure. Armed groups continued to operate in various regions, leading to displacement, violence, and violations of human rights. Corruption and economic inequality. Kabila's government faced accusations of corruption and nepotism, with allegations of embezzlement and mismanagement of public funds. Economic inequality persisted, and much of the population did not experience significant improvements in their living conditions. International criticism and sanctions. Kabila's presidency drew international criticism for human rights abuses, lack of democratic reforms, and disregard for the rule of law. The international community imposed sanctions on key individuals within the Kabila government in response to these concerns. Following Kabila's departure from the presidency, he retained influence through his coalition and the position of senator for life granted to former presidents. However, the political landscape in the DRC continues to evolve, and further developments may have occurred.